No one else can give consent.
So this
for you.
episode, we want to talk about the
yeah.
mysticism of Web 3.0, blockchain, cryptocurrency, metaverse. Am I right?
Yes, and NFTs if we can, because
I said that.
I feel I feel like this is gonna be
Go ahead, Roland.
no. First of
Jump
all, like I must say this is the beginning of season 2. It's just a symbolic cut between season 1 and season 2. So welcome for those who are new, for those who are returning. We are very happy to have you here. This is the Jelly and Custard podcast. If you don't know, and like Lee said, we're going to be discussing all things blockchain, NFT, crypto. I want to say it's going to be like an exploration for a person like me who has a very, very, very low grade understanding of these things, who's learning about these things now, who has optimisms, who has concerns about these technologies. And so I just wanted to hear, like, you know, Lee especially, because I feel like he has more insight than either of myself.
Because I'm one of the olds. I'm one of the old.
Like, he has a lot more insight, I think, than myself and Aiden, and I would like to take this opportunity to learn some shit, but also to discuss like what are the radical possibilities, but also what could be, you know, the shortcomings, the downfalls, etc., etc. So. Yeah, I don't know where we would start, but like,
Let's
do we
start
start in the blockchain?
No. Why is it called Web 3? And if there's a Web 3, what's Web 2 and what was Web 1? So
good starting point.
Web 1, how it's understood, is when the internet was invented, just .coms, right? And Google.
God made the internet.
Right? So when the internet was created, it was mainly used as a source of information and communication. Email was like big. I remember my primary school that I went to, the Model C one, when they allowed us kind to join schools of other kinds that we couldn't. It was the first primary school to have internet, and it was wild because there's no Google, there's no search engine. There was a book that you had to go to and find the URL and type it in, starting with http:// National Geographic. And there was no like porn blockers. There was nothing, bro. It was wild. And Web 1 was there to facilitate communication, emails, the basic stuff. And towards the end of Web 1 was when we saw a search engine explode. So the directory came out, and now you could find information that's on the internet and not know specifically where to find it. There was an engine that found it for you, right? And that was awesome. Web 2 is when that communication evolved into social media. We are living in Web 2, and we're about to exit it now, where social media has taken over. The internet saw a second version of itself, where most of it is being lived through social media platforms, which are basically internets within the internet. Like Facebook is like a little internet, right? You can find people, you can search things, there's images, and it's all
the metaverse.
It's pre-metaverse.
Yeah, it's pre. And then you have stuff like Instagram, TikTok, but
also like the blog sites, right? Like WordPress came out in that phase. What was it? Blogger came out in that phase, and like people. I think a lot of the conversation around Web 2 was also about the fact that people could now begin to publish and monetize their publications. So have static ads, static ad banners on the sides or on the top and at the bottom, which is very different to where we are now in terms of monetization, where it's like targeted and kind of demographic and whatever.
So Web 1 is where you consumed. You were on the receiving end of information.
Yeah.
Web 2 is when you participated in the creating of content. Vlogging was big. I think Casey Neistat was the first to revolutionize vlogging. blogging with a camera, telling a story, and everyone wanted to. So you became the source of content. You were contributing, and then platforms monetize it. If you create content on our platform, we'll show it to more people, YouTubers, creators in Facebook, Instagram, and such. And that's Web 2.0, is participating in the creation of content that's consumed by peers and everyone else in the world, and the creation of publishing platforms that take no responsibility of what's published. Right? So that's different to your traditional newspapers, where you had an editor, we had to double check and check off everything that's published in the newspaper. Whereas Facebook, Instagram, and these apps, they say, hey, we're just providing the magazine stand, and other people are putting the magazines on the stand. Now, Web3 is a totally different game. How it's pitched and what it's going to actually be is also different, because Web 2 was supposed to do that. Web 2 was this whole thing of like, take control of the content that you produce and share with people, and relationships, and find community. But obviously that community was taken advantage of through targeted ads and your likes, dislikes. You know, when Facebook first came out, you could poke, send a beer, write on someone's wall. And then these groups, and then those were all like touch points or data points that they were accumulated, and like, hey, this can be monetized. So where it goes next is going to be a bit more of the same old thing, because it's in its infancy. It's very, very, very early, bro. Like the stuff I read, and I'm participating in the discords with the NFT stuff, so much of it is just scams. And so much is going to fail. Like over 90% is going to fail. It's like that first .com era where people were just buying .coms, Coca-Cola.com, register before the big companies even knew what the internet was, right? People were registering or creating domain names of Nike.com, Adidas.com. So by the time when those corporations woke up and like, oh, this internet is a real thing, we should get our own website. Oh, Walton Sherika owns it. How much does he want? He wants 20 more. And and he made his money. Now that's NFTs, right? Because now there's other people like, oh, there's a company. I heard there's a company coming up. They're going to be massive. We should all put in money and register this domain. Everyone give me 100K, you know? And a lot of people lost money. A lot of people lost shitload of money during that time because things didn't blow up. And that's exactly where we're at now. There's no regulation, right? With Web3. People like Kim Kardashian, what's his name? Boxer.
Mayweather,
they're all being sued now for promoting cryptos and promoting NFTs that flopped, right? They got people. I was also in a project with a very famous person who was the mouthpiece and the face. That thing was a rug pull. People put in money, promised a lot of things, they disappeared. There's no regulation, right? The law is only catching up now. The same thing happened in Web 1. There was no regulation. Now there are laws. Now there's cyber laws. There's all these things. And at the moment, it's the Wild West. A lot of fingers are going to get burnt. A lot of people who can't afford to lose money are going to lose money because in their mind, this is my last chance to kind of make it. Yeah. You know, that's how they see it. And it's scary times, man.
So So I think we're gonna hop around because I still want to like kind of try and get around the question of what is the blockchain, because that is the place where information data is kind of stored but also decentralized and etc etc. But what I wanted to say on your last point that you just made, Lee, is that a lot of people are talking about this, like, you know, the trade in NFTs and the trade in cryptocurrency as a kind of gold rush where people are like really just like abandoning all sense of financial security for the hope
100%.
that buying into something is going to make them millionaires or multimillionaires, not understanding that this, like, we just don't know yet. Like, we have projections of where it's going to go.
Hype.
We have hopes of where the technology can take us, but we actually have no idea, like at the moment, where it's going to go. And I think And I think that's the danger for so here I will insert my one of my drawbacks is like I'm nervous about the dissemination of information or the lack of dissemination of information. Like people are not we I'm not literate on this. Like I'm literate on a lot of things, but I'm not literate on this. And I fear that people, will get looped into scams or into
Already done.
or into it's already done. Yeah,
bad.
exactly. But yeah, I don't know. Sorry, you were gonna say
The
something.
big guys that are losing money are guys. It's not actually money. They've been accumulating, let's say, Ethereum, which is used to buy most NFTs since like 2002, right? So they have like where it was worth like
Damn,
10
that
cents.
long.
Yeah, bruh.
Fuck, I did
Like-
not know it was
Ethereum 2002.
Maybe not two.
Are
Maybe
you
I'm
sure?
lying. No,
Bitcoin is 2009, so I don't think
Yeah.
Ethereum
So,
would have
okay,
come,
so-
yeah.
Even 2009 is long for me.
Yeah, so maybe
Sorry.
so maybe
2009 is-
2007. I had some since 2016, 2017, but there's people who've had it way before that. So yes, the value in it has increased, but it was cheap then. So they old time players, right? So there's what I'm nervous for is these people who are buying it, where it's like almost $4,000 a coin, and they swiping credit cards and selling cars and taking out second mortgages. But I read this stuff and it's sad. The problem is this: we look back at Web 1 and Web 2, social media, right? It's there's a toxic side to it. And this is when I tell people, like, how do I know what NFT project to follow? You don't follow projects, you follow people. Just like organizers, activists, people who do good naturally have used social media to do good. It's a tool. So if you have always been a shyster and a schemer and a con artist, you're going to get this new tool and figure out how can I use this to do what comes naturally to me. If a new technology comes about and Walton says he's starting a project, I know Walton. I know his history, right? So some projects are doxed, meaning you know the people who are doing it. Some projects are not. And that's for the ones that's a red flag. You should never buy into any project that the people who are running it are not doxed, because internet is full of anonymity, and that's just a red flag. So these are just tools, right? So like the internet, the social media, Facebook, all of the TikTok is amazing for information, for organizing, for rallying people for good, solid causes, right? TikTok's also a hole for misinformation, conspiracy theories, and some people should just not have it, right? Web3 is going to be like that because there are some amazing projects. There's this one project called World of Women, and they work closely, but it's an organization that's been working for like last 7 years or so with abused women homes and teaching them how to, it's art therapy. And so what they do is they convert, so they've been working with these women, so they convert their art pieces that they've done therapy through into NFT projects, and the community that buys into it, that money goes directly to the home, and it's a token that kind of appreciates with value. So every time that gets sold, a 10% goes to the organization, but they have a history of being an organization that's now adopting this new tool to kind of offset any, let's say, fees or other bank issues that can come with like raising funds, and then it's very much direct from donor to fundraiser. But then obviously you get people who use this tool who come out of nowhere. Hi, I've got this project, it's amazing artwork, and then they run away with your money. So it's still early days, it's not regulated, and until that happens, HOFAS, like, you don't know what's going to happen. Like, so don't try to figure it out. But it's FOMO. People like, oh, if I don't get it now, you know, it's like that. If you bought Bitcoin in 2010, but I didn't. So like, what now?
Yeah.
Like,
This is
That's
what I want
something
to
that
ask
people
Aiden.
do.
Oh, sorry, go ahead.
No, I think that's something that like we need to talk about, the kind of speculative mode in which this thing operates. Like,
Yes.
and it's like, like the words that pop up are like bubble, like people putting in all these savings. It's not something new. People did this with the dot-com bubble as well. Like, there
The
was this
housing
idea that,
bubble in the
yeah,
States.
exactly. There was this belief that, that there's value to be earned here, quick value, fast value, quick money. Yeah. So I think for me, that's very interesting, because one of the flip side of Web 3.0, and I think it's important to distinguish that, like, there isn't a corporation or something called Web 3.0. It's just a way of thinking about the different phases of the growth of the internet.
Yeah.
But one of the promises of Web 3.0 is decentralization, and like this so-called democratic kind of, space where people can, and the key thing I think is also like ownership. Like, the thing about NFTs is, like, it's a non-fungible token that you own, right? Like, you own like this, like, proof that this thing is, that this JPEG is the original, right? And that proof can't be tampered with because it's sitting on the blockchain. Like, that kind of like decentralized security, right? And everyone else's computers check on the blockchain or whatever. I don't know how the thing works, all that. Well, but that's the kind of basic idea, right? Like, that's promising. Like, so how do these two worlds live together? How do we speculate on this thing? And this kind of decentralized mode, I think that for me is like very, very interesting.
There's going to be a massive, massive battle between Apple and Facebook or Meta, whatever you want to call it, because one is going to own the platform, the metaverse, and one is going to own the hardware, the iPhone. And iPhone has already blocked tracking from Facebook ads. They've gone heavy on security.
Yeah, but Facebook owns Oculus.
Yeah, Facebook owns Oculus, but Apple is going to, they bought like 17 different companies in the last 5 years with the Apple making their own hardware.
So this is what
it's just gonna, it's a land grab. It's literally a land grab. And if you, like, I asked this question, I told them, I played this thing, like, if China lands on the moon, on Mars, and says this is ours, who says no, it's not?
Isn't there like a space United Nations or something?
North Korea doesn't listen to anything what happens on Earth. Like, you're not allowed to do, like, but like, look, North Korea doesn't give a damn about your laws. Like, no, we will carry on according to your science. Like, so, like, who's like ownership, control? And I started saying, like, no, the world will disagree that Mars is not China's. I'm like, okay, they can disagree, but they still landed and they still, like, so when it comes to these things, like, and I look at Sandbox and Decentraland, and it's big companies just buying massive pieces of digital land. In 20 years, you're gonna most of the population might think, oh, okay, we have here's a job, or our school's having the first, let's say, Web3 or metaverse gathering, and now you have to make an account. By that time, so much of the digital land or ownership has been taken into the hands of 1, 2, or 3 corporations. It's like land, like literally like sailing expedition, claiming a piece of land, saying this is America, this is colon, like, and if you come late, no, you can't come here.
But this is the thing, though, Lee, that's so crazy about this whole thing, is that, yeah, like in Web 2.0, you had these massive corporations emerge, like Google and Facebook and all these things, and they were basically raking up data and then monetizing that data for advertising, right? Now, the promise with the Web 3.0 is that the infrastructure for managing that data will be owned collectively, right? Like, so there's all these land grabs, but like, how does that factor into the fact that the infrastructure, the blockchain, like all the things that is supposedly collectively owned?
So this,
you know what I'm saying? That's what's so confusing about it, but also interesting for me.
This is my again, skeptical me. Maybe I'm a Luddite in the sense Desiree used that word earlier.
A Luddite.
Yeah, I'll throw a link to the Luddites in the
as a New or Old Testament.
Not
Yeah.
even, but it's like,
Sound-
I think it's like industrial revolution, like post-industrial revolution kind of moment. People who, anyway, it's a whole thing about technology replacing people and people kind of being concerned about technology, etc. My thing is, I'm not so confident that decentralization is going to look the way we are optimistic that it's going to look like. Like, I'm not sure. And maybe this is, my skepticism at being uh, in the quagmire of capitalism in the United States, but also in the world, in general. Um, I'm not sure, bruh. Like, I really think that these corporations already own, so like Lee was pointing at the fact that these corporations own the technology, but also own the platforms. And I'm concerned that there's going to be a way, to there's going to be a way for them to infiltrate the blockchain at some point. I'm not sure that it's going to be decentralized in the way we desire decentralization to look. And then another thing on the positive side for the blockchain is this idea of disintermediation, which I thought was a fascinating concept. I've never heard the word before until I started reading, like, in the last week.
Well, I don't know the
Um,
word. Can you just
So
quickly give
yeah,
me
so basic,
a quick?
it's basically just a fancy way of saying how everybody between the supplier and the buyer gets worked out of the chain, basically.
Yeah, okay.
And how blockchain as a network of computers, of data systems, goes about doing that in a hopefully safe and secure way. And the way that it's done is through cryptography, like encoding information, having different fingerprints. I say fingerprints because I can't remember the exact word, but basically a
Hash.
code. Yes, the hash, and for each interaction, etc., etc. And I think this intermediation, as a concept, is amazing, and I would really like to see that worked out to its fullest potential. But on the decentralization, I'm as an as a person who skirts the line between anarchism and communism all the time, it should be highly attractive to me, but I'm so nervous.
Me too, bro.
Aren't we speculating?
Bruh, we
Yeah,
are.
no, I'm with you,
no,
bruh.
fully,
Bruh,
fully,
I'm with
fully.
you. I'm nervous, bruh, because it's just like I just keep seeing the technology and thinking, bruh, the ideal metaverse is for people in outlying areas to be able to earn a living. Like, imagine you don't have to commute at such an extent. You know how traumatizing public transport in South Africa is, bruh. Walton, you know, you know what I mean? Also, how much it costs for everything. Now, in an ideal world, the metaverse will allow for all transactions of your daily life to occur online, where it's easiest for you. Like, I can work online, I can do my groceries, my admin, my postal stuff, pay my accounts with such ease, and be comfortable in where I stay and earn enough to look after myself, right? But that's the ideal world. And that is not going to, that infrastructure is not even going to touch the people that need it the most. Like, we don't even have proper internet. Like, I'm just thinking of where we're sitting now. Like, there are so many opportunities online for young unemployed South Africans. So many, so many. But there are still so many barriers to enter that because of infrastructure, right? And how does this help the majority?
Yeah.
And how does this help the majority of the
That's your
global
question that I'm
population,
posing to you in the
especially
chat.
in poverty? What use is it that we have this stuff when people are still dying of hunger? What use is someone bought a Bored Ape NFT for 100,000 US dollars when there's a couple of people that they have food insecurity? Technology like this, so say maybe 70, 80 years ago, inequality was like this, right? Because the more technology progresses, I feel like that inequality gap globally just increases. People are going to space here for fun, bro, for PR stunts. And there's
Yeah.
people that they don't even have running water. Like these things, I'm not saying they're bad. I'm saying like these things should not exist until everyone knows where their next meal is coming from and know where they're sleeping tonight safely. And then we can carry on. Like
Lee, can I put you on the spot quickly and ask you
Sure.
about, because I know you have, and I know actually Aiden as well, so maybe Aiden can jump in here too. But I know you spoke recently about wanting to work around digital literacy in rural communities. And I don't want you to I don't want you put your plans out in the world before you're ready to do that. But like, you know, what does that mean? Does digital literacy education include stuff like this, or because if people don't have an understanding of what these things are, how are they going to interact with it in a way that is safe and careful and secure? But also, if people don't have access to a PC or a smartphone that can interact with these systems and networks, how is this a radical and equitable solution to the problem of capitalism? And capitalism is the problem. Let's just be sure about that. Do you have space to talk about your ideas around?
Yeah, I can touch on a few things, but Aiden can go first. He can share his ideas on access on hardware and software and actually education, first of all.
I think there's a lot to be said about like what we think about as innovation in the world generally. Like I think we have the shiny object syndrome, where anything that is new is considered innovative, when in actual fact, a lot of what is new because it can be sold and marketed and whatever, and produces a particular kind of value. So, like for example, there was that thing where they were rolling out iPads in schools. And I was like, why? Like we have a reading for meaning problem in our country. Do you know what I'm saying? Why are you sending iPads to kids? Like kids don't need iPads.
But there's
They
53
need like
in the
a robust
class.
education system. They need like, you know what I mean? They need other kinds of things. And I think we are being like shackled by a particular idea of what we think innovation is in spaces generally.
Yeah.
And I think what's happening with NFTs and Web3 and all this is that we are coming up against that limit of innovation for the sake of profit or the sake of like individual innovation for individualist kind of causes versus like innovation for collective kind of benefit, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, and that's what is for me like so like exciting about Web 3.0 is that it offers this opportunity for someone in a space, someone who can access a phone, for example, can own their data. Do you know what I'm saying? Like that's also one of the promises of Web 3.0 is that everyone will own their data, that there will be this kind of buffer between you and the corporations through that infrastructure. But at the same time, it all depends on, how we play that game. Yeah, I think that like Walton was saying, I'm also like, I teeter on the edge of being a Luddite sometimes. But it's largely because I think that like there's no good or bad technology. I think like we just need the ways in which technology is sometimes put to work is just terrible. Like the way that we put certain technologies to work is just, it's not for collective benefit, it's for
Yeah.
individual gain.
Yes.
And you know, that's sad. Like we
It's like
lose out on so much.
the story
Like,
of gunpowder.
look at the vaccine thing. Like, yeah, like just like the vaccine thing. Look at this now. Like we're sitting with what, another variant now, and
Yeah.
it's literally because half of the world was denied access to a vaccine
Yeah.
over, ironically, intellectual property, which is at the base of Web 3.0, right? Like the conversation around intellectual property is at the base of Web 3.0, which is actually like crazy, right? Like yeah. So that's my.
So this has
2 cents.
wide implications, right? Like the IP stuff, the copywriting stuff, the extent of patents, all of these kinds of things. There's like many implications. Like if we're thinking about what is the potential for the collective good, but I posed the question to Lee earlier, and
the rural education. Yeah, that idea. There's many challenges before iPads. Aiden's 100% correct. I get excited with this new technology and new innovation, and that because I'm just naturally curious. That's why I've had about 17 different professions over
in the last year.
But I'm just naturally curious. So I like, and I learn by immersing and doing. You guys know that I'm not just like, I'm not heavy on like the reading and theorizing. I will jump into it and figure out what this thing is. And I feel like I feel like there are other dire needs before it comes to introducing that type of digital literacy. Like I'm talking about, like, this is a computer, this is Word, this is Excel, this is Google, this is like, there are so many people that don't even have that. So now you're going to tell them about open up a crypto wallet, go on Binance. No, like, what are you talking about? So people are getting left behind. We are now living in the age of the majority being uncontacted tribes in the Amazon, and the rest of the world is living in a different world, literally. You know, that's what's happening. And I feel like it's so far, there's going to be people that are being left so far behind. They're going to be outworked by, and I agree and disagree with your thing about the middlemen, Walton, but so many people rely on those jobs, right? Through the supply chain.
True.
That I feel like if there's no space for them to move into, then you're going to have people just lost, and everyone's just making money in the metaverse, being cashiers, being designers, being all these things, programmers, and the rest of us are doing what? You know, there's no jobs because it's just transacting from, like, Nike will send you stuff directly from the warehouse to your house, and there's no shops, there's no salesperson, there's no managers, there's no merchandisers, there's no marketing team in store. You know what I mean? Like, there's so many. So it's a two-edged sword, because at the same time it provides a lot of opportunity. The thing about the rural areas, and that is, I just want kids and young people to have options, bro. Just to know there is this other thing, and you only know what you've been exposed to. Like, you only really know what you encounter, and it's no use just chucking technology at kids. There's a process of educating, facilitating, kind of mentoring how to use it for beneficial purposes within your community and such. And I mean, that's where I want to be heading in the next year or two. And so if they decide, okay, I want to now go out, I want to go city side, and I want to set up something to bring other kids from there in, you know, out, like, and then go back and then build infrastructure with, because you can have a mud hut, doesn't mean you don't have to have Wi-Fi. Like, it's not about rural living, it's about poor living, it's about poverty. That's the thing that can be alleviated. I think
that's
you know, you can live rural, There's a lot of people. That doesn't mean you shouldn't be able to have access to decent water, electricity, data, information, and all these things. You should have
Healthcare,
choices.
education.
Completely
Healthcare,
agree
dude.
with you.
Telemedicine, like
That so that was gonna be my my next question was gonna be, you know, that we should, well, not my question, but a point really, that I think that the language has to shift from, okay, how do we help rural, like people living in the rural areas, modernize, in very loose quotation marks? How do we help them like go to the city and be entrepreneurs and all of those things? And we must shift that language from that to like, well, how do we provide the kind of space for people to live the kind of life that they want to live, whether it be in the city or in, you know, the rural areas. And when I, you know, just to clarify, because I know people are listening from the States and from Europe and stuff, when we talk about the rural, we talking about South African rural, which has a different kind of meaning than US rural like continental Europe rural or something like that. So
the countryside.
Yeah, you know, like it's not about like, oh, quaint living and cottages and stuff like that. It's like it's a very different kind of thing. Yeah, I just think the like we just need to be thinking about how do we, you know, what are we gonna do to make sure that people are living the kinds of lives that they want to live?
But shouldn't technology do that? Shouldn't it help alleviate?
It should help. It should help, but I don't think it can.
Human struggles. Shouldn't
yes,
like
absolutely, but it can't do that under capitalism. I
exactly.
Exactly.
Because you can now have investors investing in the metaverse, and investors want a return. They don't investing on don't
spirit.
Yeah, don't pay me back. Don't pay me back. Just help 10,000 people. That's the return I want. Now you got this new thing coming up of B Corp organizations. Right? I don't know if you've seen that. You can now register as a B Corp, which is not an NGO, but it's also not a PTY Ltd. It's not a private
CPT.
It's not a private enterprise, and it's not an NGO. It's somewhere in between. And I understand this because you know how much money gets wasted in NGOs, bruh. You know how much money gets squandered, all because if you don't spend all this money, you don't get that same next year. So they just start chucking things carelessly and taking photos and saying, we did this, right? A business, dude, that irritates me. A business, on the other hand, you need to make profit. Like, so you're going to be very careful with where this money goes, right? And strategic, and not just, you know, spend for spending's sake. And in that, you actually do more good because it goes to the needs that you want to fulfill. I don't know. It's a new thing that I'm kind of looking at. But what I'm saying is, if the technology is not there to what it was there since humans started on this planet to help alleviate stress on this planet, then what's the use, bruh? Because have you watched Ready Player One?
No.
A while ago. So I don't, it's not so fresh in my memory.
So the main character had all the gear, right? He was in the metaverse, he was doing the stuff, but he's still living in like a township in a shack. Because of like, you can have like the technology is there, doesn't mean it's going to alleviate poverty, because the corporations will find a way to entrench you in debt so that you can't escape, you know, if you, I don't know.
I'm excited about the dystopian sci-fi young adult fiction that's gonna come out in the next decade around this, but
it's gonna be amazing.
It's gonna be some good shit.
I wanted to ask you guys if you guys heard or know anything about this thing called DAO, or like decentralized autonomous organizations.
It's a government. It's
like you're talking about dystopian fiction, Walton, but that's
it's actually good. DAO is actually nice
Good.
because as a council, not one organization makes the decision. Decisions are made collectively. It's kind of like
So-
what I think.
But who said
So-
how is the council formed?
So yeah, so here's the thing. It's a council of owners, right?
Yeah.
It's a council of owners. So
But you
this
can
is
be an
what
owner.
so this is, yeah, I can. Just like I can be a shareholder in a company. There's
just buy some DAO.
there's similarities with the structure there that I think is important to point out, right? Like, in fact, one of the videos I was watching earlier, they were describing DAOs and they literally put the word shareholder there. And I said, okay, so it's like a company. And what is the company's interest? So what is the DAO's interest? You know, why are people there? Like, what are they hoping to get out of the program? And then I was thinking about like what kind of hierarchies emerge there in that kind of space. Like, I mean, Walton and I are always thinking about like, okay, like anarchist hierarchy is like non-hierarchy, right? It's flat structure, you know, collective decision making, democratic participation. You know, that's the kind of model. Mutual aid, you know, you operating there. When we spoke about co-ops at some point, we were also thinking about that. And the democratic consensus is arrived at because of a collective goal, right? But that collective goal is for the collective. Now, in this case, the collective goal is also for the collective, but it's adopting a similar, I don't know, I'm struggling to see, you know, how we manage that kind of, that's similarity. I think it's, yeah, I don't know. I mean,
I think
was
it's
asked the
emerged.
other day, like, what's like, I was asked the other day, like, there has to be something inherently democratic about the shareholder structure. And a part of me was like, of course not. No, it's like there's nothing. But I struggled to come up with I mean, I think I'm asking you guys, how does one get out of that kind of thinking? Do you know what I'm saying? Like, how can a democratic structure, how can a democratic structure or supposedly democratic structure, like everyone's owners, everyone can get in, everyone can participate in collective decision making, right? Be in the service of like a capitalist system. Do you know what I'm saying? Like, maybe that's a big question. Maybe we can tackle another episode, but that's something that I think the DAO, that concept of the DAO brings that into play. It's like, okay, so how do we define these ends? You know what I'm saying?
Can I say something?
Yeah,
go for it.
I think all of this is in its infancy, and it's not gonna start with these things we know now, and it's not gonna end with them either. A good example of that is MySpace, right? Was big. MySpace was
died, bro.
Bruh, okay.
Just multiply.
Okay, grandpa, boomer. Okay. What I'm saying is that there are people now watching all of this happen, seeing all the pitfalls. Everyone's rushing, right? Everyone's rushing because they want to make that bank and they want to put the flag in the sand and say, this is ours, we were here first. And as much as people are going to fail, organizations, projects, all these things, a lot of them are going to fail too. And out of them is going to emerge better models, right? MySpace tried this. I mean, Snapchat is still around. Blogger. There's a lot of these things that were big in the beginning, right? They were huge. And they fell away because they couldn't meet certain needs. Like, and either they get absorbed and soaked into different models. Like, I think about, you must just look at Clubhouse, how many downloads it had last year or at the beginning of last year. And then when Twitter Spaces came, boom, it just dropped. No one uses Clubhouse. Right. So if you don't, so and that's what's happening now is like people, the big people who can get the funding, who can, like Apple, Google, they all just waiting. They doing their thing because they know once they decide, okay, this is what we're going to do, they can put so much cash behind it. They can run it at a loss for like 2 years just to get momentum because it can be absorbed through the other parts of their company. And these new guys that are coming, just trying to figure out something haphazardly. And all of us are confused as fuck. Like, we're like, oh, should I do this? It's scary. It's that. And I think people just need to wait and see what happens, honestly, and just learn as much, become as literate as you can. But there's no regulation, guys. There's no regulation at the moment on any of this. And it's starting to come now because cryptocurrency, like celebrities are getting kind of sued now. And it's like financial invest. If you're not a financial investor or a financial advisor, someone will tell you, like, you can't, like, if I give Walton my money and he says he's not a financial advisor, and I give him my money anyway, and he does something with it and he loses that money, I can't go to the court, because he told me it's not a fun. And that's what's happening now. It's like these people are saying what you must do with your money, but none of them are qualified. And legislation, people need to vote. I don't know. People need to push for regulation and legislation around this in order for it to be decentralized.
That was an interesting use case of the blockchain technology that I found. Was there's apparently a company in Switzerland that's developing a voting system based on the blockchain. And the idea is that, you see, it's completely secure because it's vetted by everybody, everybody who, I'm not exactly sure, but basically how it works is that it's a distributed network. All the different computers that have access to the blockchain or have data in the blockchain can cross-check the blockchain, basically. So it's super secure, like in terms, like nobody can tamper with the results, basically, is the point. But there's obviously fears, like with other electronic voting systems, that people can just hack into it.
And there have been hacks. So apparently there've been like 20 major hacks of like blockchain and crypto trading in the last year, to the sum of about $100 million that like went missing or got stolen or whatever. In the grand scheme of how much wealth is being traded on these platforms, that's not I guess it's not like a lot, because it's billions moving around all the time. But the danger is there. But I do think that's like I said at the beginning, I'm like optimistic and skeptical at the same time. Like I hope that there's a way that this becomes equitable and widespread and available, like all of these platforms and technologies, etc. But like Lee said, also right now it's in its infancy. I would like to see some more use cases though, because I think like the one that you pointed at, Aiden, the voting system, the possibility of the voting system in Switzerland, that's a very interesting use case. I think I can already see how something like that will go down in the United States, where the politics of voting stations is fucking like just absolutely ridiculous. There's no security. There's no like equitable practices. There's no fair play. Nothing. It's like the Wild West. Everybody's suing everybody, and it's crazy. So I can't imagine adding in a virtual platform, a virtual secure, crypto kind of platform is going to go down well with these voting agencies, but also with these very backward politicians. But they also I was gonna say they're a dying breed, but they're not. There's like a 37-year-old guy who what's his name, Crenshaw or something, Dan Crenshaw, I think, who did an interview with Trevor Noah the other day. The guy who was in the Navy, apparently.
Is he in a wheelchair?
Yeah.
I know.
And it's just like backward racist people who are now coming into the, Senate and all of these things. So
There's a racist farm that they breed them on.
bruh,
They grow them, they water them, bro. Because they
it's
come
like
out
a
young. They come out young and feel
hot-
like
racial horticulturalists, bruh.
racial botany.
That's why you and I. That's why you and I are connected
They-
by the umbilical cord, Lee.
They
'cause we
splicing stems. This root, we'll take the southerner, we'll take this southerner, and we'll mix him with this guy from Boston, and we'll make this.
Bruh, I must talk to you guys about the like the north south divide line here in the States and how it's just a historical fallacy. And like
Yeah.
when it comes to like race politics and stuff here in the States, I would love to talk to you guys about that sometime, because I need to process it with
Yeah.
you guys.
I just back to our current topic. I thought about
Yes.
something, how a lot of these things are being pushed in school as well, like coding, blockchain theory, and all of that. And it's starting like at grade 10, grade 11. And I understand the need for that, because if learners get it young, but at this point, it's still being taught so that they can go get a job at one of these big conglomerates. And cybersecurity is also huge, one of the next frontiers. And just like I can see Amazon putting out an ad looking for 2,000 blockchain specialists, like, you know what I mean, like for young graduates or something like that, because they're gonna probably just take over a huge space, like warehouses being run on blockchain technology, direct to consumer. Elon Musk now started taking payments in Dogecoin for Tesla merch, and that sent the coin through the roof. So it's still too volatile, because one person's opinion or action
Right.
can sway an entire currency. And I mean, Joe Biden slips off some aeroplane stairs, the dollar drops by a small fraction of a percentage for 2 days. You know what I mean? Like, South Africa has a bit of a protest thing going on, the rand dips quite a bit for a few days and then it's back up, but not like how cryptocurrency is, because it shows you the mass speculation and the mass volatility of it, because it sways an entire currency. That's why it's not a valid, that's why it can, and it's all being traded for fiat currencies, dollars, pounds. So what are you trying to tell me? This thing only exists as a version of something that already exists. Like until it. So the closest thing we have now is NFTs, where I can buy something from you in F that has real world value, but not based on money. So the smart contracts, if I buy this picture from Wilton, that means I get a knife in the mail, and wherever I sell this to, they get a knife too, because the smart contract says Wilton gets a 10% commission on the sale of the art, and then if it's really niche, if it's really an exclusive set of knives that only goes to NFT holders of this, you can make quite a lot of money that can go back into providing more for your community, so you can send out more. So you're not getting money for your NFT, you're getting some other thing that you didn't buy with cash. This is the thing why NFTs are now popular, because it's the first time people are not trading their crypto and waiting it to go up, like Bitcoin goes up a bit. Okay, now I'm going to sell it to get dollars. They are like holding onto it because it has more value than and that's why it's disruptive at this point. But who knows?
But I feel like that's probably a moment to like put a pause on it. I don't know if anybody wants to drop some last pearls of wisdom here, because I feel like this is gonna be a long conversation that we're probably gonna pick up at other points. I can already see continuities with other things we've discussed, even though we didn't name it. I can think about like, youth unemployment stuff. How will this possibly, if it becomes something that is available to folks and folks become, for instance, folks have access to these kinds of technologies, or like how does that change the landscape possibly of youth unemployment, of the nature of capitalism? I always hope for capitalism's demise, but what does this do for the ways in which we mediate our lives with this overarching system of control that we are trying to live within? Yeah, I guess a bunch of other stuff that I can just rattle off. So there's many continuities, and I'm just super grateful. I learned a lot, I think, today. So if anybody, wants to say a final goodbye, now is your time. But follow us on Instagram at JXC Podcast, and on Twitter also at JXC Podcast. On Facebook, it's just Jelly and Custard. Like, subscribe, comment, interact. We love the interactions that we've been getting. I don't know why I'm crying. Just out of the one eye.
Because one eye is sad, the other one is. I love you guys.
Love you guys. Thank you. Thank you for tuning in, and we'll catch you next time.
Cheers, everyone.
Cheers.
Bye.